Recently, I was able to try out a route, and I have to tell you, it was actually a very positive experience. While I do think there's a couple of things that Niantic needs to fix when it comes to routes, I still think this is something that is a good thing for Pokemon Go, and I did want to talk about it here. That's what this video is going to be all about, so let's roll the intro and get right into it. Yo, how's it going everyone? It's me, it's Jinsula. I hope you're having a good day and welcome to today's Pokemon Go video. Okay, so I was finally able to locate a route in my local areas, and you know what? I think this is one of the biggest problems with routes in that there's just not many of them around, and players that actually want to engage with this mechanic just have a very difficult time doing so. But if you are lucky enough to actually find a route, I highly suggest you try it out. So what were my experiences with this route? Well, first and foremost, it was pretty lengthy. I think this particular route was for a pretty long trail, and I had a lot of fun with it. I actually really enjoyed it a lot. I think the idea of going on a set path and getting a bunch of special spawns while you're doing it, I felt like this was something that Pokemon Go has needed for a very long time. It kind of gives you a bit of direction while you're playing. Like, if you're going out and grinding Pokemon Go, it gives you kind of like a set walking path for you to walk along, and it does give you bonus spawns and a whole bunch of other things while you do it. The one thing that I found was really helpful is that when you start your route, you can start your daily adventure incense, and it's kind of like hitting two birds with one stone. As you're walking along the route and collecting all the bonuses related to routes, you could also collect a bunch of Pokemon from your daily adventure incense, including Galarian legendary birds. Yeah, I totally got it. Like, why Niantic wanted to put so much emphasis on routes, like, it totally made sense to me after I did a route. But the big problem was, of course, finding the route. I had to drive about 20 minutes from my house in order to go to it, and I needed to talk to a lot of local players in order to find it. And I really feel like something like that is just detrimental for Pokemon Go. Like, if you have a really cool feature that you want the entire Pokemon Go player base to try out, you need to have them available pretty much everywhere. But as of right now, they are a dime a dozen. Like, you really cannot find routes right now. The fact that I had to drive over to a completely different town in order to start the route, like, that was incredibly frustrating, and I really do think this is something Niantic needs to work on right now. I don't know why there's not that many routes right now, even though we had a month of beta testing. Like, they could have used those beta created routes in order to populate Pokemon Go right now, but they opted not to do that, it seems. Like, I don't know if the routes that I walked were actually from the beta testing, but there just doesn't seem to be that many routes out there. I was even in downtown Chicago, which is one of the most heavily populated areas in my area, and there were no routes for me to walk, even in downtown Chicago. I thought that was really bad. Considering the sheer amount of activity of Pokemon Go in downtown Chicago, you would think that there would be a whole bunch of routes everywhere. I don't know if it's because there were just so many major streets, but I was actually in the middle of Millennium Park and Grand Park, and you would think that there would be a bunch of routes in those areas. So yeah, I think this is a huge misstep. I think Niantic needs to focus on getting as many routes in Pokemon Go as possible, because I really do think its stellar gameplay is just not available for everyone, and I think that's a huge issue. I mean, there's a lot of negative sentiments around Pokemon Go right now. Like, I actually saw a couple of content creators that are typically very supportive of Niantic start to show their critical sides towards Niantic, and I think that's a really sad thing because, yeah, I'm one of the critical YouTubers and content creators out there, but there's usually a good number of people who are just fully supportive of Niantic, and they're always trying to give Niantic the benefit of the doubt. But to see them actually turn their backs on Niantic, it kind of shows you the direction that the game is going, that even the shills are starting to not like Niantic, and they're really not going to have any kind of support after a while. Like, sure, there's always going to be certain people who are just mindlessly always going to shill Niantic, and yeah, you know who they are, but there's also a couple of other Pokemon Go trainers who are a little bit more balanced, and they always try to be mindful and constructive towards Niantic, but yeah, even them are starting to get a lot more harsh, and I really think this is something that Niantic needs to address right now. Like, yeah, they've had a really hard time with the community this year. They made a lot of decisions that were very unfavorable, but they've just not done much with that. Like, yeah, I do like that Michael Steranka is trying to reach out to content creators and actually talk with them. I've actually had some private conversations with Michael Steranka behind the scenes, and you know, I really feel like he does have a lot of passion for Pokemon Go, but I don't think it's enough. Like, I really feel like they need to go with their actions. Like, actions speak louder than words. So you know, if there is something that the Pokemon Go community is actually speaking out against, then I do think they need to address it as quickly as possible. Routes is a big thing. Like, I really feel like this feature is currently dead in the water, and that's mainly because there's just no routes for people to do right now. And this is something that Niantic needs to fix immediately. Like, this is a great feature. I had a really good time with the routes that I did, but because there's not many routes out there, it's something that's extremely limited. I don't think a lot of other players that I know have actually done routes, and I don't think many of them are willing to drive out far in order to do them. I feel like in the most ideal scenario, routes are something that they could walk to from their house. Like, it's a local park, there should be a route always available, and it's something that they could do to increase their Pokemon Go play. But yeah, unfortunately right now, that's just not the case, and I think that's all entirely on Niantic. They need to make the route building feature a lot more stable. I think that's been a huge issue, and they also need to populate the game with more routes. I really don't know what they could do to expedite the review process, but that's something they need to do. Drop everything else and just get as many routes populated as possible. I mean, that's the best course of action in my opinion, but we'll just have to see what Niantic does. Of course, it's been about a week since routes came out, and I do know that the review process is about a week, so we might start seeing a whole bunch of routes start showing up in the game right now, but yeah, I really don't know. Like, the game is in such a weird place right now. Like, there are a couple of things that I want to be excited about, and there's a couple of things that I actually think are really good right now in Pokemon Go, but the overall negative sentiments is just clouding a lot of that, and yeah, Niantic needs a lot of work. They need to do a lot to make up for a lot of their missteps this year, and hopefully Pokemon Go Fest will be that, but I'm just cautiously optimistic for the rest of this year. I think there's a lot of things Niantic can do to make up for a lot of their problems, but it's really going to be up to them, and I really hope they can pull it off, because Pokemon Go feels like it's on its last leg. It really does. But in any case, yeah, that's going to be it for this video. Let me know your thoughts regarding everything that I talked about in this video. Did you actually try out routes? I'm really curious to see what you think about them. If you have tried them out, then make sure you talk about it in the comment section down below. Then we'll have a great discussion. And if you ended up enjoying this video, make sure you hit that thumbs up button and subscribe if it's your first time here. And don't forget that little bell so you can stay up to date on whenever I upload videos. And I want to give a quick shout out to my patrons on Patreon. You make this channel content possible. If you want to support my channel in any way, big or small, then do consider checking out the links in the description below. For all my patrons, they get a permanent spot on my in-game friends list. So if you want to interact with me in some way within Pokemon Go, like with remote raids, then do consider becoming a patron on my Patreon. And yeah, that's going to be it. I am Count Jinsula. Be safe, have fun, love yourself, and I'll catch you all later.